Well, hi everyone. Welcome to ALD's
What's up?
Roundtable. Nice to see everybody. Well, I see Jonathan's hand. Hi, Jonathan. Hi,
Namaskar.
Jonathan. Hi, Zian. Hi, Brian. It's great to see you.
Oh, good to see you.
Okay, this is the only scary part of our session when I tried to screen share and do the slide. So here we go once again. And we're going to go to present.
Patty's not joining us, huh?
No, he had a different work engagement today. So,
Okay.
yep, he was unavailable and Angela was unavailable. Okay, I
That
fixed the slide. Look how at the bottom, a life designed. I fixed the slide 3 times. It is refusing to stay
It's
fixed.
all good.
Okay,
I see.
doggone it. Okay, so we're going to talk today about discernment, and I have a couple slides to just kind of set the table. So here's the first one. We know this meme. Sometimes when we work with clients, they're actually in a place that's burning down, but they're coping and they're pretending. This is fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. And we know if they're talking with us, something is not fine because they want to make a change, do some improvement, or even just get their bearings. I think maybe this isn't fine. What do you think? So, and we find that people who've been in difficult situations for a long time, as humans, we cope. And then sometimes there's just no more coping. We've got to start the changing now. So if this is you, we might work on your discernment a little. And then I thought this was funny. The boss therapist. I asked my therapist who their therapist was and went to see them. Then I asked them the same thing who their therapist was until I got to the final boss therapist. And I defeated them with my train wreck of a life.
That's awesome.
Who's the top boss therapist? I need to go there. And then finally, we talked about thinking about discernment like a game of Jenga. So here's some people having fun at a beach. You see a boogie board in the background there. And they're playing the game Jenga, where you pull the blocks. And if you pull them in the right order, you cannot upset the whole stack of blocks. But if you pull out the wrong one, the whole thing crashes down around. And we don't want to do that in our lives. It's fine in the game, but maybe not so much in our lives. So thank you for doing our slide journey today. Sometimes we do have clients that come and visit us and their life's on fire. And they were inching towards it, or it came straight out of the blue. I was talking with someone the other day who was working very hard in her relationship sector of her life. And she met someone, she had a really lovely time. She came home from a weekend away with her new someone and was notified that her mom's been diagnosed with cancer. And so now she's orienting what she wants to do with her time in her life about how do I support her? Is this the kind of cancer that's going to take her away from me sooner than the normal scheduled programming of how long somebody lives? Is it something we can manage, or is this an emergency? And so every once in a while, these things happen to us outside of our control. And sometimes we've just been working a coping strategy so hard, we get to a place where actually I can't cope with this anymore. I need to use my discernment to understand. So there were a couple of things in the news that I wanted to mention about things that people have to use their discernment around. One was the recent political rally gunfire, I'll say. And that kind of rocked the world about, oh my gosh, that could have been super disastrous, and reminded us of historical times in the past where that sort of thing has gone on. And it can rock your boat if you're watching the news about it. And another one in the same week or so, it feels like we're living life on fast forward right now. So much is happening all at once. Was the CrowdStrike interruption from worldwide computer systems. And so I know someone who missed a flight because the airplanes were grounded because the traffic controllers couldn't use their Windows-based computers. I know some people that had banking challenges because the banks were closed until they could get back online. I had 2 meetings canceled because the client had the blue screen of death. You know, their Microsoft was just blank until it could get rebooted. And then I know people who it made no impact at all. They weren't flying. They weren't needing to go to the bank. Their computer turned on just fine. It did not impact them at all. And so I guess one of the questions as coaches that we ask, and we'll do a roundtable here to talk about, you know, when clients present challenges to you that seem global or seem national or regional, what can you do about it? Maybe nothing. And is it actually impacting your life? If it is, then there's something that we can do to maybe help you. If it isn't, maybe we should set it aside and turn your attention to the things you're actually working on in your life and just give them permission to let it go and not worry about a national disaster or a computer meltdown or something. So, Brian, would you like to chat first about discernment when these crazy things are going on around us?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think we should talk about discernment on many different levels. Discernment as far as events in the news, yeah, I mean, I think it's just a combination of using logic and sort of intuition. But I think we can talk about like sort of discernment in like spirituality, discernment in relationships,
Yeah.
discernment in making life decisions. There's a lot of different stuff with that. I think in the last roundtable discussion, I think Zian, you mentioned the concept of separating out other people's emotions from your own. I think there's discernment around that. Like that, it's good to have discernment around that. Like, that's something me and my pool coach used to talk about. Like, there was one time I said something to him, and he was like, "That's not even your stuff, man. That you're picking that up from other people. That's other people's energy. That's really not even you." So I think that does happen. We kind of can absorb other people's energies, and we got to be able to discern, like, is this really who I am, or is this just I'm picking this up from my environment and the people around me? That's big too. And yeah, discerning truth versus falsehood. Whether you use logic for that or intuition for that, when it's better to use logic or evidence, when it's better to use intuition. I think sometimes in relationships, it's better to use intuition than logic. Like if you feel like something's off or you feel like your girlfriend's cheating on you or something, a lot of times intuition is better there than just like going based off what they said or something, which might be like the more logical approach. So when do we use logic? When do we use intuition? Like using that as discernment. And you know, what's the best way to make life decisions? If we need to change something, should we stick with something? Is it time to quit and move on? What's the right way to have discernment there? I mean, you could do a pros and cons list, but also I think in relationships, discernment, sometimes it's better to look at actions rather than what people say, because people say stuff to just be nice or to just kind of keep things going smooth. But what are the actions? Sometimes I think that's helpful for discernment in relationships. And again, whether it's family members, coworkers, girlfriends, friends, whatever. And then I'll talk about spiritual discernment here. I'm going to do a little bit of abstract spiritual philosophy here because I think it's good to know. I think it's good to know. And I actually want to talk about some song lyrics, which is a little bit of a strange approach here.
Okay.
But I think it's cool. So have any of you guys watched the TV show called Firefly?
Never.
It's like a space. It's like set in space. It's kind of like a space western kind of thing, sort of like Star Wars. Like there's a battle going on and people are fighting for their freedom and stuff.
Okay.
These people get invaded from like, you know, spaceships. So I'll tell you some of the song lyrics here. I
Okay.
won't sing them, so I'll spare you
We'll
guys.
put the lyrics in the
Um,
comments below so people can experience the song. Okay.
and in sort of a little bit of an oblique way, I feel like this connects to my understanding of spirituality, and we'll talk about that. So the song goes, "Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care, I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me.
Mm.
Take me out to the black, tell 'em I ain't coming back. Burn the land and boil the sea. You can't take the sky from me."
Mm.
So it's about like people are being invaded, and this kind of like there's solid. They're making their stand, and they're saying, we'll fight.
Mm.
You can maybe take our land, but you can't take the sky from me, I think. So
Mm.
one way to understand spirituality is, and this actually connects to Platonic philosophy. This really connects to Eastern spirituality. And I think this actually gives people kind of a rational view of spirituality, which is, some people don't really think that exists. But let me explain this. One way to understand spirituality is when you look at yourself and you're trying to find self-knowledge, you can keep subtracting things about yourself until you get to something that you cannot subtract. The idea is that that's your essence, or that's your real nature. So
It's
anything that is
unchanging.
changeable,
Mhm.
yeah, anything that is changeable about yourself,
Mhm.
that's not really you, because you can change it.
Mhm.
So you could change it this way, you could change it that way, but either way, you're still you, right? If you
Mhm.
make this change or that change or that change. So you could change your personality, you can change your thoughts, you can change your emotions, you can change your behaviors. Okay, well, what can't you change?
Mhm.
That has to be your essence, right?
Mhm.
And again, there's ancient Greek philosophy that went into this. A lot of the ancient Greek philosophy, from Plato, Socrates, ended up becoming Neoplatonism, which sort of ended up being like Eastern spirituality. They were kind of reasoning their way to that point
Mhm.
bit by bit. So where I think this connects is this idea, you can't take the sky from me. Like, what is the thing about yourself that can't be taken away? And generally the answer that would be given is it's just pure awareness. It's pure consciousness.
Mhm.
That's the thing that's always there. You
Mhm.
can make a million different modifications to that consciousness. Like you can take on different personality traits, different energies, different thoughts, different emotions.
Mhm.
But what always remains, what cannot be subtracted, right? So this view of spirituality is kind of like the art of subtraction, which is a phrase from Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee used to talk about that. Um, and that's a way to sort of get to a certain kind of self-knowledge, which you could view as
Mhm.
spirituality or as a form of spirituality.
Mhm.
And this connects directly to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, where I would say the thesis of that text, which is an important text in yoga, is called Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And what that means is it's basically saying higher states of consciousness come into you when the modifications of consciousness stop.
Mhm.
So as you sort of get beyond the mind, so where you don't have thoughts, you don't have emotions, you
Mhm.
start to see your true essence because you're looking at the part of you that doesn't change.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're always looking at the part of you that always changes, you could say, like, if you're always looking at the foreground instead of the background
Mhm.
of yourself,
Mhm.
you get caught up in the endless
Mhm.
changes and sort of turmoil of that. So I wanted to share that. I don't know if that,
No,
if that's,
I appreciate
yeah,
that, and I think that when people are disrupted in their lives, whether it's something personally that's happening to them, or it's some news cycle that's happening around them, um,
yeah,
how do we settle that disruption? And there's a spiritual path to that about what is unchanging within me. One of the things I wanted to approach with Jonathan today is helping people find their center. So where is the place of
yeah,
quiet and peace? Where is their center? So there's a storm going all around me. I think I'm going to go find my center and then come back and take a fresh look about what's going on. Is it actually impacting me? Do I need to make decisions about it? So Jonathan, do you want to talk about how, as you introduce people to their higher selves, as you work with your hypnosis processes, when people are disrupted about something or there's a part of their life that's not working, how do you help them make clear decisions or have a more clear-eyed view? Do you want to share a little bit about that, how people can use discernment to get through a challenge they're facing?
Yeah, of course. The first thing when it comes to discernment, it's they come with a problem and they want to see a different perspective, higher perspective. So first, I let them talk based on their the current reality that they're living in, and then from there we basically literally I will be like, okay, this is the thoughts that you're having now, which are not yours. They were implanted. Like, for all you know, when you were a baby, you didn't even know how to speak. So you're full of nonsense. Now it's time to shut up and listen to what it's actually real about you. And that's what I take them to that place. They literally, it's like a bubble where they can actually not think, but actually like Brian mentioned cheetah. It's like a dimension. It's like I'm pretty sure everyone has had that experience at some point in their lives when they feel like they can do anything or everything and it's going to be so easy. But then the negative thoughts start like, it's like contamination. It's like, and it's the reality of it. So deep down, we know that we can do anything we really want. But the other reality is that there's always these ideas that there are not even ours, that is always telling us, you cannot, you suck, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are to be able to do this? Like, you're like, that's not you. So all those things are not you. So with hypnosis, we can like get rid of them eventually. It takes work because it's not like the human itself has to like do some work. But what's the alternative? To be living in a place of like I cannot. So
just let the fire burn around you while you have your coffee. This is the alternative. We'll just let
So it is hard work, but it's definitely possible. The other thing when it comes to discernment, you were talking about like news, for example, and I was thinking about it. And the reality of it is, it starts even before you watch the news. Like, which news are you going to watch first of all? Because there's many kinds of news. Let's say somebody's going to present the same thing that happened that day. But if you watch certain channel or certain humans, they're going to present the same thing that happened through their looking glass. So they can twist and turn and make actually a fucking circus out of the situation that just happened, instead of presenting you with the crystal clear picture of what just happened. So it is important to if you're going to watch news, make sure you watch like on the purest form of it, like .org or something. Like, just don't go and turn on your TV and watch the news.
Right, trying to get more facts than opinion. It's hard to do today because the media is pushing particular opinions and they get mixed together, the opinions and the facts. But I appreciate that feedback. It's good to know that there are coaches that we can work with. People can say, okay, I need to clear the clutter about what I'm thinking. And I might not even be able to tell which thoughts are mine and which I just adopted culturally, or which I just adopted from family, or just long years of habit. And now I think they're mine because I've been carrying them around a long time. And I didn't know I could put them down and stop that.
And then another thing was discernment when it comes to spirituality. And again, some humans, they do not believe in it. That's fine. But spirituality, the way I experience it, and you cannot escape it, is like the law of gravity. If you walk from the top of the building, you're always going to go down. It doesn't care if you believe in it or not. Like, that's not the point. Like, there is a law, and we are spiritual beings living in physical bodies, and the universe does not care if you believe in it or not. And that's why if you really pay attention, successful humans or like humans that have joyful lives, they actually deep down they're connected, and they will always tell you, oh, it's not me, man, I'm God. And they might believe in the monkey god, the serpent god, who knows, everybody has different gods, but they feel connected to something higher than themselves, and they will tell you it's easy, like athletes. So like they will be humble enough to understand that there's some higher level that they can somehow connect with, and that's how it goes. So it is important to understand that it's fine if you don't believe that you're a spiritual being living in a physical body, that's fine, but the universe does not care.
Well, and you might be willing to explore it. If the world isn't making sense to you, you might explore some other ways to experience the world. Zian, I want to come to you. And I'm inspired about Brian's lyrics about the sky is mine. You can't take the sky from me. It reminds me of Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But Viktor Frankl was in a concentration camp in Germany, and he figured out that no matter what the guards did to him, whether they gave him food or didn't give him food, kept him up all night or not, there was a place in him that was always his, that was always free. And he could keep making that choice to stay free, regardless of what was happening outside of him. Even though he was confined to a space, he had freedom they could not take away. And so I want to speak to you, Zian, about when people have the freedom to make a different choice. And so it seems like people can find they're caught in a wave. Like the river is carrying me out to the sea, and I'm on the wave of all this bad news cycle. Or I feel like disaster's impending, or like the world is stacked up against me. My last 3 girlfriends have said the same thing, and I'll never be happy. You know, they feel like they're caught in a wave, and they, I think, forget the amount of freedom they could actually be exercising. And so some of it is a change in thinking. Some of it is just taking a stand and saying, I'm free to do this differently. So do you want to speak to when you're caught up in circumstances around you, the computer won't turn on because you have the blue screen of death because some CrowdStrike upload went bad. You have other places where you are free to make choices. You want to speak to that, Zian?
Yeah. There's at least a fair amount of the time where people don't make different choices. They don't change their mind because somewhere deep down inside them, and a belief has been ingrained within them that changing your mind is a form of weakness, that it makes you look wishy-washy, that you have to be set in stone with your beliefs and your thoughts and your feelings, and you can't ever change those things, otherwise you're weak. Or that maybe it could be that this person is not anchored into they're not anchored into a foundation. They're not anchored into something that they can build their strength or identity upon. So they might start to feelings of not being connected to something deeper, or not a deeper purpose revolving around certain beliefs and thoughts may come to the surface, and they start to feel.
I think there's a way to think about that. You know, you find people in spiritual communities, or you find people in workplaces, or people who've grown up with sort of the same community of friends over years, 10 years or 15 years. And people can feel like, if my beliefs don't correspond with the beliefs of these people that are important to me, I'll become an outsider to this group of people that are important to me. You know, I won't fit in anymore. So when I change my beliefs, what else am I changing? Like if I pull this Jenga block out, does the whole thing fall down and I'm not included anymore? You know, the people that I hang out with don't know me anymore. Or the job that I loved, now they are not going to promote me because I'm not going along with whatever it is that I think might be wrong that's happening there. If I speak up differently, what risk am I taking? if I'm already upset and it's gotten to the place that I think the building is burning down around me, changes have to be made. But people need discernment to know, when I make this change, what is the consequence to me? Am I giving up this community? Will I be an outsider? You know, will I have to, what are the consequences of making these changes? And sometimes life says, too bad, I changed it for you. You just got fired. You just got dumped. The hurricane came through your town and now your house is flat. So sometimes there's nothing we can do. The change happens to us. But do you want to talk about how you could use discernment and say, okay, you're at an intersection where if you make this change, you are at risk that these people you're with won't see you as valued the same or won't see you as part of the group. Is this change worth the risk? Do you want to speak to that, Zian?
Yeah, that's a great, the Jenga concept, that's a great analogy. You pull a certain block out, you change a certain belief, the underlying belief structure behind a particular pattern of behaviors or particular set of behaviors, and things change. You know, what was on top of the Jenga block that you pull out, or the belief that you change and remove, everything kind of comes toppling down that you pulled out, that everything comes toppling down that's above that block holding everything in place. So it's best to ask in those situations what you stand, get clarity, get really real with yourself. Ask yourself what you stand to lose and what you stand to gain. What do you like about your current situation, and what don't you like about it, and versus what you're looking forward to about the level of change that can come about when you do reflect and you make changes and you make practical changes in your life, and what will cause anxiety or discomfort when you institute that level of change, and how it's going to make you feel afterwards. Like, get really real with yourself. Ask yourself those critical, self-analytical questions, and understand what it is that you like about something, what you don't, what you're looking forward to, and what's going to be uncomfortable in the possible emotional fallout. And then you can explore that narrative, that, and while you're asking those questions, you're exploring a narrative rather than just shutting down to new possibilities or convincing yourself that you're totally excited and you're not dealing with some level of discomfort and how that relates to the changes it's going to bring about in your life and how you adapt to those things. Don't just shut things out and say, no, I don't want to do it, or, oh no, I'm totally excited, and then not acknowledge the drawbacks. Like, get really real with yourself, acknowledge the good and the bad. That way, and there's no rush. There's absolutely no rush to doing this. It takes it may take a day, but normally it takes a week or two, maybe a month. And for the decision, I would say invest more time and energy into it. The more the bigger the decision is, the bigger the change. Put more time and energy to thinking about it, and tuning into how you feel about it. Don't feel rushed whatsoever. I mean, there are certain there are certain deadlines that you do have to make in concordance with external reality around you. There are things that do have a time limit and an expiration date, and the expiration date comes about sooner or later, a lot of the time. Right. With respect to that, make your decisions and feel into it, think about it, analyze it. Like Brian said, we're probably going to say a lot of times in this video and many other videos, merge intuition with logic, and don't just use one or the other, because that's when you're at an apex of processing information. Thinking, while it has its merit, is the lowest form of processing information. Intuition is more, it's faster, and it's more efficient.
Mhm.
So when you combine thinking with intuition,
Mhm.
then, as I said, you're at an apex of processing information, and things come to you in a more effective way. You have more clarity. You're not confused. But be careful, because you also might be overwhelmed with tapping into that manner of processing information. So if that's new for you, take it slow. But also, as I said, just use your discernment and feel into what's best for you and how to go about it.
I do think that some people have easy access to intuition. For other people, it's like, what are you talking about? And so you can work with coaches to just refine your own personal decision-making process, particularly if there's a lot going on for you. It's also helpful to talk to someone who's not in your life, who is not your friend, who's not your family member, who's not your romantic partner. You know, a third party that says, okay, do I have this right, the way you described this? Why are you still doing that? You know, to just bring some clarity from an outside perspective, because we do get caught up in the flow of what we've been doing for a long time, and we lose sight of the fact that the river's carrying us out to the sea. So I know I had a client once come to me and say, I think I've got some gaslighting going on at work. I wanted to mention gaslighting. And so the term gaslighting comes from, I think it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. And it talks about how there was this plot of people around this one person to convince this one person that certain things were true that were in fact not true. But they did kind of a psyop on this person, and they gaslit them to believe certain things were true, so that then this person would take a certain path forward that these other people wanted them to do. So they sort of created a throne of lies, if you will, and convinced this person, and then leveraged them into making choices they otherwise would not have made if they had known the truth. Well, we live in a world where we have way more information than we can process. And there's 14 ways to think about any one thing you're thinking about. And it's probably the case that you can't get to the bottom of any of it. You know, when you look at the big things that happen, how do we know which newscaster is telling us the truth? One of the challenges right now in gaslighting, as an example, is sort of the cognitive ability of the current president of the United States. And so has it been true that the media has known all along that there was some decline potentially that was going on, and they were keeping it from us? Or has it just had a rapid decline and now we're all learning it? How can you know and get to the bottom of it? And so the thing that I've learned when I work with a client, one client in particular, she said, I think I'm being gaslit at work. And I said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to pick 2 or 3 circumstances where you say I think they're gaslighting me about whether or not I can get this promotion. I think they're just working me hard, and then somehow the promotion's going to evaporate. I'm not really going to get it. Let's look at those situations where you think gaslighting might be happening. People are telling you things that are not true to motivate you in a direction for their benefit. And then all we have to do is spot the lie. We need to spot one lie. We don't have to figure out the whole mosaic pattern of truth. We spot one lie. And if we can verifiably prove this is a lie, we know there are other lies. And so now we just know they don't tell us the whole truth. We don't even have to know what the whole truth is. We just know that sometimes they lie. And now with that information, you can make a decision that's really just in your best interest, not in what's going on. And you can not have the level of trust you might have had, but now you're going to verify. I need in writing that that promotion is going to come. And if you can't give it to me in writing, I'm just not going to trust that the promotion you're offering is going to come to pass. So now you just need to go into verification mode. I need to verify. And so, you know, people can feel gaslit again in large situations like the media, or small situations about, are they dangling a promotion that may or may not come to pass? So who wants to speak to how to handle where you feel like some of what I'm being told is not true, and I'm not sure, my trust is rocky now. What do I do about that?
I remember the first time I was gaslighted. It was Santa Claus.
What What?
I was like, come on. I had my suspicions because my desires, I was like, okay, I want this, and something else show up. So, but when I learned that Santa Claus was not real, I was like, I felt lied to. I was like, I was believing in something that is not even true. And so that was my first experience with gaslighting. And then it sounds like not much, but the reality is that like you were saying, there's levels of gaslighting. There's like personal levels, but there's also the bigger picture of society gaslighting. There's also society gaslighting, but there's also self, uh, like we do it to
Where we
ourselves
lie to
also.
ourselves. We lie
Yeah,
to ourselves to cope.
we
Yes.
either for good or for bad, sometimes with too much positive thinking and not backed up by action, or sometimes just because of negative beliefs, we gaslight ourselves to thinking something that is not even true. Just like if there are any kids watching Santa Claus.
Yeah, we click the box that says not suitable for children, so you're safe. You're safe about Santa. But I think that's such a great example because most of us have had that experience. But I mean, there are people who are told when they're 18 that they were adopted, and they might have had
True.
some idea, but now they know, wait, you're not my biological parents. There's these other people that brought what? So I mean, and that
So
might have been for the best, to raise the child in a nuclear family or a safe home. But yeah, there are times where people may not be giving you the whole truth and they think it's for your best information, and maybe it is. But at some
and
point,
it
the truth is revealed. Go ahead.
yes. Now, so this is my final thought on that. Once the truth is revealed, it shocks your world. Everything that you thought it was real, it will put you in a very fragile situation because now you cannot trust, and it's actually traumatizing. Believe it or not, it's extremely traumatizing when you're gaslighted.
Yes.
So it is one of the tools that you can use is to learn that nothing outside of your mind you can control. Like it's like a realization. It's like the reality is that there's nothing besides your mind that is in your control. Like you can die for like a heart attack, like anything can happen, and it's not in your control. Like you can just stop breathing and it's not in your control. Like but the only thing that you can take charge or control of or master is, it takes us back to Viktor Frank, is your mind and the way you react to situations. So once you know that you have been gaslighted or traumatized or something, it's good to know that you can overcome that, and you can actually use that as a like a fuel or manure to create a better version of yourself. So it's not like a bad thing at the end, but it can be extremely traumatizing. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, Zian, it makes me think about trauma integration, a mature view. And so I work with executives and, in the example I gave, they're promised a promotion and, we're not 100% sure this is legit. And you need a mature view that says, what are the good things about this job? It's paying my bills. I like my colleagues. I'm good at the work that I do. And now maybe I should see if I can verify the truth of this. And maybe I should also start a job search, because it could be that I want to work with people I can trust, and that there are 2 or 3 key leaders here that I feel like now I can't trust. I may not want to work here anymore. But sort of still showing up at work, still doing your job, still wondering, what can I verify? What can I trust? How do you sort of integrate? I still have to keep living my life every day now with this new information, so there's sort of an integration that needs to happen. Your reality changed. You may not like the new reality, like the old reality where you were believing them and trusting them, but it's better to know. And then now you have to keep moving forward. Do you have suggestions about, obviously you can work with a coach and other people, but suggestions about, I need to integrate this new reality. I've been cheated on, or I've been lied to, or I'm not going to get the promotion and I was counting on it. And now I have to reformat my reality and my engagement with my world with this new information.
I do. And before I get into that, I want to say I love your suggestion about getting verification in writing that a promotion is going to happen, so that you're not busting your ass and putting in a bunch of extra work that you wouldn't do otherwise. And then being met with the disappointment of finding out you're not going to get the promotion. So that's a great example. That is a top-notch suggestion. I want to go back to what Jonathan said quickly about how gaslighting, the nature of gaslighting, it's traumatizing, as he said. As anybody knows who works in the self-development or the self-development field, or is a mental health practitioner, it erodes your sense of trust for your own choices and your own sense of what is happening. And that is very damaging. That is how people succumb to manipulation and being manipulated with false information, like how we're seeing a lot of in our current political system. As he also said, you're in a very fragile state. You can't trust yourself, and you don't know how to trust anybody else. So your foundational system, your sense of intuition, and your ability to navigate the world effectively by making informed decisions, that's been undermined critically. So I think your question was, what can we do
as you reintegrate, you have a new look at a reality that's less pretty than the reality you thought it was, but now you're operating with new information every day. How do we keep going and know, okay, I have decisions to make. I still have to go to work on Monday.
When it comes to integrating, you can't force things. So you want to take your time, and this goes back to what I said previously about getting clarification, getting really real, and taking time to feel into and analyze a decision rationally. You take your time integrating the pieces and the energy that you're now wanting to embody. So if you had a sense of naivety, if you were naive and gullible about how things went on in the workplace or any area of life, you're going to want to take time to allow that energy and those feelings to sink in. You can't force it. You never can force it. It's the wisdom and the intelligence. It comes into you fully when you're ready. But forcing is never a good idea, because when you're forcing it, you're unconsciously judging yourself for not being able to embody that fast enough. You're beating yourself up. Why can't I do this? Why me? And it woes me, pity me. You don't want to do that, because it's a self-defeating cycle. So that just harder on you. That overwhelms your nervous system. That throws off certain biorhythms. Then it can impact your sleep, obviously your stress level, your ability to be at peace and feel relaxed at any given moment throughout the day.
So you can choose how much this is disturbing you. And you can give yourself the length of time that's needed. They say there's no clock on grief, right? So if you're feeling sadness or sorrow, or you're feeling anger because you feel like, wow, I've been lied to, processing those feelings for each person takes as long as it takes. But that work is useful. And so I appreciate your letting people know, look, figure out how much time it's going to take, do the work. Brian, I'm hoping to end here, and then we'll go around and say how people, can work with each of you. I'm hoping you can talk about, you've done a reassessment. Some of the things you've told weren't true. You've realigned with your current reality. You understand the changeless nature is inside, and so you can center and go, I'm going to go with what doesn't change, and I'm going to take a fresh look at the outside world that is changing. How do you recommend people manage boundaries going forward? Because one of the things you might decide is, I have a significant other who's cheating on me, I now realize that's in fact the case. I decline to be in a relationship where that's permitted, and so I'm going to make this change. Or I'm going to keep working in this job because it pays the living I want, and I just understand now I have bosses I can't trust. But I may also start a job search. So when you have a new reality and you look at your boundaries and you find your center, do you have a recommendation about how people can strike that balance as they move forward in the world they understand now differently?
Okay, striking balance. Let me answer it in terms of, I guess I'm just trying to understand the question as far as like, how do you deal with it after you've been gaslit or manipulated? Like,
Right.
what's the moving on process?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is I tend to think somewhat strategically. So one thing is you can kind of update your strategy as to how you deal with these people in general. Whether that's a coworkers thing or a girlfriend thing or family or
Maybe a
friends or
family
whatever.
member. It could be, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. And then you got to find some way to heal the emotions or heal the trauma. You know, and we offer different modalities here. You could talk to me, you could talk to Z, and you could talk to Jonathan. Like, you got to find some way to heal the emotions, and whatever way is best for you. But you got to heal the emotions. Emotions are a big deal. I think that's like the main driving force in human life. Maybe the main driving force behind behaviors. You gotta turn your emotions around if you're traumatized, if you're hurt, if you're going through that. So yeah, and then I mean, I would update my strategy going forward. So I try to look for like permanent solutions as opposed to temporary solutions. So my mind is going to start looking for like, how can I structure this so that this cannot possibly happen again?
Whatever it was that had happened, yeah.
Yeah. Like there's just, if I set things up this way, there is no possibility of this happening again. I try to think like that. Because then, I mean, you've permanently solved it. So sometimes there is a solution like that, maybe not always. But can I talk about some other stuff that other people mentioned?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we'll go around and find out how people can reach everyone.
So I like some of the stuff Ian was saying, and one thing I wanted to add to that is a while back you were talking about uh, uh like, you know, making a decision and, you know, kind of analyzing the pros and cons if it's the right decision for you. And one thing I think that's really good that's related to discernment is if you want to do something and you actually feel like it would be better for you to do it, sometimes people hold back because they just don't have the cojones, you know, they don't have the courage to do it. So I would say it's good to ask yourself, am I not taking this step because I actually think it's a worse step to take? Or am I not taking this step because I just don't have the courage, but I actually think it would be better if I did this.
There's a fear.
Like if that, yeah, if that's the case, I would say try to work through the fear. Try to summon the courage, because if you're actually going to be better off doing this, find a way to like get it done. You know, so I wanted to add that. That's another level of discernment there.
That's wonderful.
And another really interesting way to look at discernment is I want to mention chess thinking a little bit because I've been studying chess lately. One thing that's interesting in chess is, so you have a certain number of possible moves available to you, right? From any one position. One way that you get better at chess is you have to stop making a good move. You actually have to start thinking in terms of what is the best possible move from this position. Like, so there's a level of discernment where it's like, okay, that's a good move, but is that the best possible move from this position? Like, to get to a really high level, you have to train your brain to think, what is the best possible move here out of all possibilities, and make that move every single time. So that takes you to a higher level of chess discernment, where you're not just making like a good move. You're training yourself to always make the best possible move available to you at that time. And I think that's really helpful thinking for life. in terms of learning to have better discernment with decision making in life. Like,
Mhm.
what is your best possible move?
Mhm.
Not just like a good move, the
Yeah.
best thing you can possibly do here. So
Well, and working with a coach, you can give yourself permission to do the best thing. So many of us say, what's the easy thing? Well, this is good enough. Well, I don't really want to hurt anybody's feelings. Well, I can get by with this. They have the framework that says, what is my optimum move? And I'm going for that is a different way to be approaching life. And whether it's come out of trauma or you have new discernment about something, to say, I'm going to think, of 3 or 4 things that I could do. What's my top move? And how can I make that happen is a great way to be approaching life. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, Jonathan, how do people get a hold of you?
They can reach me as of now, alivedesign.org. That's a great way to do it. And also on Instagram, Jonathan R Coaching, or via email, same jonathanrcoaching@gmail.com. But the best way, it can be either Live Design or Instagram.
Oh, fantastic. Good. Thank you for mentioning alifedesign.org. Okay, Zian, how do people get a hold of you?
If my information is up on lifedesign.org, then you can reach me there. All my handles on social media, Facebook, Instagram are Heavenly Wisdom Coaching.
Great.
Or you can reach me at heavenlywisdom.coaching@gmail.com.
Oh, perfect. Good. How about for you, Brian, as co-founder of A Life Designed? I suppose I could find you at A Life Designed.
yeah, people can just reach me through alifedesign.org, and I can teach people Sedona method, which is a way to release emotions, or I can teach people to begin to start manifesting things as well.
Okay,
they
good.
want to do that. Yep.
Well, thank you so much. We have so much going on in the world that we wanted to give people a chance to say, wait a minute, I'm not sure all this is true, and I'm not sure what I should do about what I now know that's different than what I thought I knew. Like Santa, we got to adjust ourselves with these things, these changes in the world. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for visiting us today. Go to alifedesign.org and join us as a member. It's free the first 30 days. So see you guys next time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you, everyone.